We've got a group of cars going down towards the hairpin. And yes, they have caught up, but for some reason, one of our BMW M3s is taking a long time to get to the safety car. And in fact, with the safety car coming in this lap, look at the picture here. We've got another group of cars going into the stadium section slowly, whilst the safety car itself has picked up the leader, but is nearly coming on to lap this group of cars. Surprising that they haven't been able to catch up, but with it coming into the pits, we are going to go back racing again.
Yeah, interesting.
Big gaps.
Yeah.
Remarkable gaps.
I don't know whether it was Remco de Buys, the 233 BMW E46 M3, came into the pits and has now since left again, whether that was involved in an incident, and maybe that was the one that caused it.
Well, I did speculate that, but if he came into the pits, the reason why I'd have speculated it was because his timer was a lot further behind. So maybe the Eddie Van Dam Radical was the reason why we had a safety car. The safety car is due in this lap. The safety car lights are out. We have the leader coming down towards the stadium section of the track. Look at the back of shot to see if there's any other cars. Yes, one of the groups is going to catch these guys up absolutely flat out with fully up to temperature tyres. So that second group that's now just caught the first group should be in a much better position to go back to racing than our leading group that were actually quite slow behind the safety car, of course. Back to racing we go again then. The races continue to be led by the House of Mayer LMP3 with the CN just behind of Hagen and Jeps. And then the best of the GTs is a BMW M6 with a gap to the Nissan of Roger Gravels, who does have a bit of attention from BMW Z4 and M6 behind him.
Yeah, it looked like the Bentley got a fantastic restart there. The Nissan GTR was under huge pressure. Roger Growls in the number 188 car, running second in the GT class at the moment. And it's not only Bob Herber in that Bentley that's chomping at the bits, because in fairness, you've got, incredibly, another one of the Silhouette GTRs just behind him, and BMW M6 of Max Tuben and Dan Mayer that were all over the back of them. So if Bob Herber just has a little nibble, I think that there's a chance that Growls will get passed by more than one car there. I was surprised that our leader, the Maurenhauser Norma, actually went quite so steady there, considering he was the best lap time-wise was 2 seconds a lap quicker, so it didn't really feel like he needed to go terrifically tactical with that restart, did it? But he did.
No, he doesn't know. I mean, quite happily just put his foot down and have an easy one.
It was just so steady. It was a very sort of, I'm going to catch them out behind me and go when they least expect it. And it's like, to be honest, you can go when you like. You're in an absolute class of your own in more ways than one, and it's just flying. It's such a shame. The LMP3s, of course, we had back in the UK as well. We had the series running for a couple of years, and they're just awesome vehicles. There's no, you assume when you look at these that it's got all of the aids to sort of assist, the technological aids to assist the driver. I think the phrase that I got from the drivers that were racing these things is they're quite agricultural. It is down to the drivers to keep these things tamed, to say the least. They do like running wide out of turn one, don't they?
Well, it's not an easy. We've already spoken a little bit with Peter about this. It's not an easy corner because you want to carry lots of speed in. For some of these cars, it could even be nearly flat out. But if you get the turn-in point wrong, if you turn in too early, you're going to hit that big sausage curb, which is going to damage the suspension, push you wide. Turn in too late, you're going to miss the apex, and it's going to push you wide. So very, very hard to actually nail that lap after lap.
Notice as well, we've got another one of the Normas, the 61 car of Luc de Kock. It's all over the back of the BMW M6 GT3 of Dan Meyer, the 107 car. That's a sort of a collection that you didn't think you'd talk about, isn't it? But it's all over the back of them. The problem is that you probably can't see that car in his wing mirrors.
It is very, very small. I think the issue is that Max Tuben, like we saw actually in the M2 race, had a really good start, got himself up into the sharp end of the GT field, and once everyone got their temperature into their tyres, that Z4 is lacking pace in relation to the cars around it. So he's slightly backing Dan Mayer into Luc de Kock, and so very close between these three. That roll hoop that's illuminated is remarkable, considering it is a very bright sunny day. The Norma has a roll hoop that is fully bright, lit up like a Christmas tree.
Oh yeah.
And I imagine that helps at least for the guys in the big Bentleys and BMWs to see him, as you say, because he's so small. And he's not in a position where he should be, really. That CN should be a lot faster than the GT3s.
You can almost see with these three cars that are running together that it is this whole strengths and weaknesses at different parts of the circuit, isn't it? And you just see, I mean, as soon as you were talking about the lights on the roll beam there, roll bar, is that it really does sort of remind me of a little kid there, sort of jumping up into the view of the rear view mirror of the cars in front, going, I'm here, don't close the door on me. But they're just not letting him have a run, and it's certainly been a good couple of laps since the safety car came in. So it's not as though the Luc de Kock car was needing to let everything get up to temperature, because enough has happened now for that to work.
Further back, scrap for Silhouette Sport Honours. Once again, cool livery on the leading white machine, the Vroom, along his door, which is a kind of a tribute to Michel Vaillant, the cartoon character who used to have that kind of decal on some of its cars. And actually, one of the very last Z4 GT3s to race at the Spa 24 Hours had decals from Michel Vaillant, very much like that. And Alex Zanardi drove it with hand controls, obviously, and backed fully by Schnitzer and BMW Motorsport. But Michel Vaillant doing or not Michel Vaillant, but the artist that draws Michel Vaillant doing the livery, much like that. But I was thinking, when I saw that out the corner of my eye, I thought, maybe they've actually bought the original one from the Spa 24 Hours, even with a new engine, because I think that car actually's engine expired during the Spa 24 Hours. But now we realise it is not actually a BMW Z4 at all. It just looks a bit like it.
Yeah, it's a car that's got subtitles on the side, basically, isn't it?
Silhouette.
In case you don't know what noise it's making, now you do. Still, all the way down through this field, so much going on. The P1 category being led by our overall race leader at the moment, the 511 car. And that is just, it's cantered off into the distance. Even going through traffic, Ben, is that we're still looking at 143 laps, which is nearly the second quickest lap of everybody, and that's even as it's been slowed down by 3 seconds going through traffic. So it is in a class of its own. They were working really hard on that car to get everything warmed up whilst we were covering the BMW M2 race. The noise in their garage as they were sort of really revving it, and they had all the blowers and everything trying to keep it cool, but they clearly needed to get everything working inside before they unleashed it on the circuit, well before it.
And we saw this Bentley parked up in Spa. They used the other one for the 12 hours, but this one was taking up lots of space in the garage. I think they did a test day with this car before the 12-hour race, but then they used the other one for the actual 12 hours. He did get rather beaten up during the Spa 12 hours, so presumably this one is a bit neater and tidier for this Dutch Supercar Challenge. Both championships very open to bringing, allowing you to run whatever you can bring and love the variety. They'll even probably make space for that quite old Nissan GTR now. We don't see so many of those in newer spec, and it's not as competitive in headline GT3 racing. But if you want to bring it, then it'll be bopped so that it can be competitive. As you can see, this Bentley, built by M Sport only a couple of years ago, far younger as a vehicle than the Nissan GTR, and the two of them having a nice little battle together.
I mean, that's some grunt there, isn't it, in those two cars?
That's some grunt.
This really is. And yeah, Bob, he didn't didn't look too happy, did he, when he was being caught up with by the pit reporters over in Spa? But I think he's going to be enjoying this one. He's closing in, even as they're working their way through the traffic. The Nissan GTR of Roger Grau's under huge pressure. Bearing in mind, this is for second and third in the GT class. Bob trying every trick under the sun there, flashing his lights, leaving them on full beam anyway, not just because they're getting past the back markers. I'm sure he's trying to make sure the back marker doesn't suddenly close the door after Grau's gets past him, but he's trying to psych out Grau's, and the GTR's just going, do what you want, mate.
All of this battling has let Bart Ariden's Sen in the BMW M6 scuttle away. That's the white BMW M6 that is ahead. The black one has dropped off the tail of this little group, but they do have quite a bit of traffic to get through. So whilst they might get caught up at some points by fighting traffic, we might see these back gaps concertina a bit. There's a gap of 6 seconds at the moment between Bart and Roger in the Nissan, who misses the apex through the Sachs curve, runs a little bit wide. And don't forget also, in a couple of moments' time, we'll have the pit window opening, which is 1 minute to stationary, and they've worked out it's 18 seconds to rumble through the pit lane if you were not stopping. So that means the result is a total sum of 118 seconds. But there's a load of other things to contend with, thanks to success in previous races.
But the interesting one there, we're talking about this fight and enjoying the Nissan GTR keeping the Bentley behind, and the Bentley who dropped away but has closed in very quickly again. So you kind of almost feel that it's a matter of time. They both have the same amount of penalty to serve in the pit lane, so no one's going to lose out there. So in theory, they should still come out line astern after the pit stops as well.
In theory, but somehow it never happens, does it?
It doesn't, does it? Especially when we saw how many of them got the, the pit stop amount of time wrong, and that was when they all had to do the same amount, which was a minute and a half they all had to do in the BMW M2, and we saw several getting into the 129s. So I always think that you're safer being add a second on. Just add a second on, it's fine. But they always go to... I've just seen as well, a car that's just gone past our window there, is that we've got the Ligier, the Swift Ligier. There, of course, they've got one car running in this and one running in the 12-hour, the Hankook 12-hour as well. And they are two totally separate cars, even though they're absolutely identical. Other than there is two cars in the garage, I've made sure, I've checked, with different stickers on the top of the windscreen, and that's the way to do it. It's such a wonderful car, and there's two.
I just bring one and re-sticker it. It's got to be cheaper just to change the stickers than to have a whole new car, surely. They're using Hockenheim. They're using Hankook tyres, so they're both the same kind of spec.
If you could, you would, though, wouldn't you?
Well, yeah. if you could afford a Veyron, then you can have a Veyron.
Yeah. Absolutely. Still, we see on the screen, and I was just watching it come past our commentary box as well, was that fabulous fight. The Bentley, I'm intrigued that he's not able to throw one sneakily up the inside there, or whether he's just waiting, feeling he doesn't need to do it just yet, because, we're not even at half race distance yet. But the Bentley dropped back after going through some back markers, closed it up almost instantly, and yet just can't quite find some gap. Looking on the screen there's the Ligier, the filling in the sandwich there, in effect, is the Swift Ligier. And I just think it's a fabulous car, that. It's really intriguing.
Second in the SSP2 class, but with the leader of that class just 0.6 of a second ahead of him. So the leader of the SSP is that Honda Civic Type R, old style TCR car, one of the original Honda Civics by the looks of things. So they've got a random collection of cars to race with. Obviously they're in a Ligier, which doesn't really race in anything other than FFSA French Championship. They've got a Honda TCR car, one of the original TCRs, which has got to be 5-6 years old now. There's a Lotus Exige ST GS2, which I have spotted.
It's hard not to at bright yellow,
because it's
isn't
bright
it?
yellow, yeah. And then there's 2 BMW M4 GT4 cars in that category as well.
And the interesting thing is, this fight we're looking at on the screen, this is for the lead in that class, isn't it? The TCR is currently leading the way in that SSP2. So Tony Verhoest in Honda Civic TCR, the Ligier JS2 of Dennis de Boer just behind him, and a Radical SR1 to boot, just to sort of throw in the entertainment factor.
Yeah, a mobile chicane at points, and then a faster car at other points of the circuit.
When you consider the Radical SR1 is if you like, the first rung on the Radical ladder, isn't it, to get yourself into racing, and it has its own championship back in the UK, and this thing is pedalling incredibly well here. It's all over the back of this particular group here.
I mean, you're already going to drive these cars completely differently, because you've got a front-wheel drive TCR car versus a the Ligier's rear-wheel drive? Must be.
Not sure.
Effectively, it's a GT4 car, the Ligier. So I think it is rear-wheel drive. So, Peter Snowden will be able to describe this better than I, but you drive a completely different style with a front-wheel drive versus a rear-wheel drive. So at points it might look like the TCR car is opening the door to invite the Ligier through, but actually it's just a different racing line that they need. We're going to turn our attention a bit further up the field now, because we've got a really strong battle here between Max Tuben and Dan Meyer. BMW Z4 versus BMW M6. Always loved the Z4, nearly bought one as a road car, and they did actually end up side by side for a little bit, with the M6 being forced off the road at the hairpin just a few moments ago. So that is a change of position then, as the pit window, or pit lane, opens and people start beginning to dive into pit lane, which is now the next 10 minutes of just confusion, basically. Everyone's going to come into the pits. They're all going to stop for different times. Once they come out of the pits, we'll work out who's where.
Yeah, especially as we say, is that it genuinely is legitimately different times, where we've got success penalties from the opening rounds that we have here. So as they start diving in, we have to let it unravel itself in reality, don't we? Luc de Kock has brought the 621 car in. That was the Norma that was at the pointy end, the sort of, well, not quite the pointy end, within the top 6, and that one has come in right now and decided to take its stop.
Well, here's a confusing thing. Luc de Kock's not supposed to have a teammate, according to my entry list. So I don't know who he's handing over the car to, because I just saw him getting out of it.
Oh, really?
So I don't know. Could you, considering the other car is retired, the 611 car didn't get past the first line.
Let someone else have a go.
Could you let that driver drive it? Anything can happen in the Supercar Challenge.
You never know. And we're always the last ones to find out anyway. They don't tell us these things.
So Thomas Piessin didn't have a chance to drive. Sam de Jong started, according to our timing screen, Sam de Jong started, or didn't start the race. So maybe he's getting in place of Luc de Kock.
I'd be staggered though, that.
I don't know. We saw somebody getting out and another one getting in.
Maybe he needed the loo.
No, there was another guy, a different human getting in. There it is. Different human driving now.
You and your humans.
I don't know. I just don't know. Anyway, it's all part of the fun.
Well, it does still say that Luc de Kock has left the pits, and it doesn't give us a second name.
That's because the timing screens only know one person.
Yeah, so even they know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Somebody definitely is in that car that wasn't on our entry list. That is all I can tell you, folks. Oh, I did a folks. I can't believe I did a folks.
You're here all week. Try the veal.
Good silhouette battle going on.
Bob Herber's in the pit, sorry,
Bentley's
Ben.
in.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a teammate this weekend, so at 12 hours of Spa, he had a teammate who ended up being faster than him. But he is doing the whole race himself in this Boda run Bentley. Boda, interestingly, also running the Dan Meyer BMW M6 that's still out on circuit having a bit of fun. So we will... he doesn't have a teammate either, but that BMW just ahead, where's that come from? That's the one. Is that the 149? 114. Yes, it must be. So that's Keith Weissman with the door open, and he's in the blue BMW S6, a bit further down the running order.
Those BMW M6 GT3 cars are just incredible. The size of them. Peter Snowden said yesterday the footprint. Oh, and in fact, he's just struggled to get that one stopped at the hairpin.
Great battle. I think slightly. intimidated off the racing line there, the M6. And so Z4 back through, and Max and Dan continue to battle. They actually really could do with being on a different part of the racetrack from each other, so they could just focus on lap time, because they're a couple of seconds off what the GT3 cars can do, and therefore losing ground to the rest of the field. Here is a little replay if you're watching our stream. Round the outside, and that was a try to pass, but a little bit too deep into the corner, opens the apex, and Z4 says thank you, M6.
Yeah, that's, and I'm sure that that's where the battle that Luke de Kock was involved with as well at some stage in that Norma until he pitted, so it changed it. The Nissan GTR has made its way in. Roger Growls, car number 188, running second in the GT class to behind the 193 Bart Aronson M6 GT3. This is the reason why I bring this up, Ben, is that it's going to be interesting when this car is released to go back out again. We need to keep an eye on the Bentley, Bob Herber, where that car's going to be once they're unleashed as well.
Yes, because Dan Mayer should have sat in the pits for 10 seconds longer than Bob Herber, thanks to the success ballast. An interesting Bart Aronson, who is the leader in GT3, should be even more stationary. He should be 20 seconds in the pits over Bob Herber. So I think we'll see a change for GT3 once all these pit stops are done.
Yeah. The GTR, 188 GTR, is going to be the same as Bob Herber. So, yeah, those two should both suddenly move up. They were running, what, second and third in that class. And as you say, the lead car in the GT, the 193 of Bart Aronson, could lose out a bit here.
As pit stops continue to cycle through, let's head down to Peter Snowden, who is in the pits watching the chaos unfold. Peter? Either that or Peter Snowden was just playing around with his button on his microphone, because it's... Oh, there you are. Hello.
Try to go live.
Go for it.
Yeah, it was turned on, but it just seemed to be working. Yeah, the Bob Herber car...
Happens a lot.
And as you said, we were talking about the footprint of the M6 there and what a big car it is. I never thought an M6 would have to get out of the way of a Z4, but I guess it's a BMW family thing, isn't it?
We just a second. We've got a car off the circuit, turned in at turn 1 off the track, and then had a failure. So 410 off the track. We might be going safety car again. Carry on, Chris. Peter.
Yeah, I was just saying the GTR's just got out of the pits, and we're just having to step out of the way because we've got one of the BMWs coming straight at us. And that is the 208 entry, Ted Dan Vliet, having its tyre pressures and done and sorted. One of the other BMWs further out down the pit lane. Yeah, I was just going to say safety car, so it's probably a time for me to stop and you talk about what's actually happening out there rather than not a lot in here.
Safety car is being called as suspected because Mark Veringer has parked his Silhouette in the gravel trap on the inside of, or the exit of turn 1 on the inside. Why he needed to park it in the gravel trap, because he did have control over the car. It wasn't like he spun in there. Either way, that's where he's chosen to position it. Weird though, wasn't it, that Chris, he was off the track turning into turn 1. Yeah,
it looked like he dropped the left-hand side onto the grass on the outside of the straight, and then it just didn't allow him to stop. And then as he took the corner, which he didn't take terrifically wide, but suddenly felt that something was completely wrong, went to the right-hand side, and as you say, just drove into the gravel as though it needed the gravel to help him stop. So I wonder whether that was a brake failure.
Could be. Yeah, maybe that makes sense. Felt it go as he came into that first turn. You don't need to brake too much at the first turn, but you do a little bit. So it would have given him enough of a feel that something was wrong. Either way, we've gone under safety car, and crucially, some of our drivers have yet to fill in to do their pit stop. Now, they've only got 1 minute and 40 to do so they need to get the pit stop done now. And that means the first two in the race and that battle that we saw between Z4 and M6 are now pitting. Pit under safety car usually means a good thing. but it does depend on where the other cars around, such as the Bentley, how much time they lost versus these guys. These guys are in pits right now, and everyone else on track should be circulating very, very slowly. So there shouldn't be massive advantage to the cars pitting now, I would suspect.
Yeah, that would make sense, yeah, because the rest of the field are sort of the other half of the circuit while they're serving their pit stop, and they should be able to sneak out because we're still not seeing the safety car in the field make its way back down in towards the stadium complex yet. And so, yes, I think they're going to end up doing well. I mean, Bart Aronson, the 193 car that was leading the GT class, I think probably came in just a little bit too early, so might not get the benefit, because I think that the chasing pair of GT cars that were...
yeah, Tubin and Mayer.
Yeah.
They came in as the safety car was called.
They're going to do well with this one, aren't they?
Yeah, I think they're going to really jump things here.
Because Herber and Growls, the Bentley, which incidentally, by the way, I've just noticed that the Bentley Continental GT3 car 101 of Bob Herber has got ahead of that Nissan GTR of Roger Growls 188. So we wondered which way they would come out from each other. But they would have been hoping that they could possibly jump up into the lead, you know, become the lead pair rather than second and third.
So Z4 heads out. M6 heads out. Safety car is in the stadium section, but those guys have got out ahead of the safety car. So I think they're going to have, a lap advantage.
Yeah.
Over the guys that have been caught out behind the safety car. And of course, poor old safety car wants to pick up the leader of the race. But when the leader of the race is in the pits, you can't do that. So it's a very awkward time to have a safety car when you've got these rather fluid timing screens with different leaders at different points. Either way, pit lane is now empty. Everyone will have completed their pit stops because they have to do it within 25 minutes. If they haven't and they've got caught up behind the safety car, then they will get a penalty for not doing it within the window. Safety car comes over the start and finishing line, and we are now going to see how this is all played out, I think. But I suspect that we're going to have the top two as they were, and then Tubin and Mayer, so the Z4 and the M6 that were battling together, will be third and fourth, and then everyone else will be a lap behind. Unless, because they're going to join the back of the train here, so then what this race control could do is allow all of these cars to go past, get the leader back to behind him, and then we can go racing again.
There's your answer.
There you go. Okay, so cars are being let past. So safety car is going to try and pick up the leader. It is still going to put a huge amount of cars. Well, actually, is it? It's only going to put... No, it's got to put no cars. So Bart Aronson has lost 2 positions, but by the time he gets back to the tail of the safety car train, he actually won't have lost. He lost track position and lost 2 positions, but he won't have lost too much in terms of time.
Interesting stuff, and it's good to see this. It's all
confusing stuff. I'm not sure I explained it that well. It was just coming out of my mouth as like a constant brain fart. I'm sorry if that was confusing.
Speak what you think. Speak what you think. Say what you see. But look, it's always one of those frustrating times, isn't it? And I'm sure both of us have had nightmare situations where the safety car coming out in a pit window just scuppers everything for someone and really benefits someone else.
Yeah, but hang on. So my theory was he would pick up the leader. He's actually stopped the Bentley from getting past. I know, now the Bentley gets waved past. Okay, so there was a bit of controlling going on, and safety car waving in the old traditional style of literally using your hand to wave. Safety car pass. Now, who is the safety car trying to pick up now? He comes back across. Yes. So safety car has picked up our leader, which is the Mauer Hauser LMP3 Norma. Second in the line is a BMW. So, but it's a backmarker BMW. It's not one of the cars that is racing. Now, in this kind of situation, we won't clear the back markers out. We'll pick up the leader, and then that's set. And safety car in this lap, which is quite remarkable. So these guys that have been let past need to get a real push on. Oh, that's kind of okay, and then kind of not okay, isn't it? Like, go on, off you go. But now, I mean, the safety car's at the end of the lap. Safety car's going to come in here, and we're going to have a huge field spread.
Yeah, well, And we got fed up of safety car controversies rumbling on.
Oh, that's annoying. Could you not have waited one more lap? Like, race stewards, it's all right. We could just go racing again. We've only got, we've got loads of time.
We do, and I mean,
how many cars are behind the safety car?
Max
4?
Tubin and Dan Meyer are right there at the back
Sure.
of that gaggle, so they're sat 3rd and 4th in the 111 and the 107. That's the lead 2 now in the GT, where they've really lucked out, haven't they,
Yeah,
with
absolutely.
when they took their pit stop compared to this safety car.
And I thought they were going to have not much of an advantage over the next GT3, but they are going to have a huge advantage. We go back to green flag racing here at Hockenheim with just 6 cars behind the safety car. The rest of them trying to play catch-up, but miles behind. Well, that's kind of set the race in stone. Unless we have another safety car in the last 20 minutes of the race, no chance that these 2 BMWs, the Z4 and the Z6, are going to be caught by the rest of the field. No chance at all. And therefore, Bart Aronson is going to be about a minute and a half back. We are going to have 2 very different races and plenty for our cameras to try and focus on. But that's a bit of a shame for the race.
Still, we've got this lead battle for GT to keep our eyes feasted on. Max Tubin in the 111, which interestingly it says it's a Silhouette GTR, and it's like, I'm sure it's not, it's a Z4. But it has managed to make a mini breakaway. Someone locked up heading in towards the hairpin, and in fact it was smoke. It's our leader. Suddenly the Mauerhauser Norma LMP3, although it seems to have got going again, hasn't it, but it's been closed in on by the 613 CN leading car dramatically as it came more out of the hairpin, which is why I thought it was an issue. It looked like in the background it was smoke from somebody having locked up, but it'd be interesting to see whether our leader now has an issue where it's been stuck behind the safety car.
Now, I think that should be...
It has. It's got an issue. Sorry, Ben. Is that we've changed. Wow.
Still running, though.
It is, but it's now back in 2nd place and being closed in on by this GT battle of Tubin and Meyer. So I think it's pit-bound.
Let's have a look, then, as it comes around the final part of the lap. I think Gary Hauser would have been aboard that car in the first stint, and that's why it gained such a huge advantage. It will be
still going.
It'll be Liam Mauer aboard the car for the 2nd stint, and as you say, it's still going, but the CN Norma, which is definitely the slower of the 2 types of Norma, has now got the lead of the race. Ian Gepps aboard the leading car. And here comes the GT3 car now down the inside. Now, usually an LMP3 and a GT3 are not that dissimilar in terms of lap time. A good LMP3 car is faster than GT3s, but when you, depending on the skill of the driver, it does very much depend on whether that LMP3 car can be as fast as a GT3, and the LMP3 car drops down into 4th position, side by side between Z4 and M6. It's been like this all the way through the race. And again, M6 later on the brakes, but little Lotus Elise in the way and just about keeps the M6 out of the door of the Elise. God, imagine sitting in an Elise and turning to your right and finding an M6 closing in on your passenger door. That'd be horrible. But he's managed to do it without contact. And interestingly, oh no, who are those cars? Oh, there's a different category. Looking out the window and looking at loads of BMWs coming down pit lane.
Oh, and we've got damage on the rear corner of that amazing Peugeot, the RCZ, which is in the Silhouette, the sports division, the Peugeot RCZ Cup car of Chris Voigt and Bert Vandenbroek. That car has definitely got the rear corner just sort of flapping around in the wind. But didn't spot anything happen to that, and no one else seems to have stopped on circuit, but you kind of suspect the majority of times it appears to be a dam buster of a move by somebody down into the hairpin, doesn't it?
Well, safety car breeds safety car, right?
Yep.
So when you end up closing the field in, like we've just had, you do end up with much faster cars trying to get past much slower cars and contact being made. We are seeing on the screens, by the way, the M2 CS Racing Cup being put back in their garages, just for reference. That's what that is. They're not loads of BMWs retiring out of the race at the same time. They were never part of this race. Interestingly, though, one of our Silhouettes has gone back out onto circuit, the green machine. I wonder whether that was being pulled out of a gravel trap, but he's been allowed to restart.
That was the one that came in with the damage to the steering arm, wasn't it? Yeah.
Okay.
Because Peter Snowden said that you wouldn't know it did have any issues when you look at it, but they weren't comfortable with it. They've done enough to make themselves more comfortable and gone back out on the circuit. It's only going to be a test session for tomorrow's race for them now, isn't it, really?
Yeah. And what's very important about in these races, the 24H series, all of this kind of philosophy of racing is track time. You know, the guys end up paying an entry fee. They want to go out and drive a car, and you don't park it up because you're not going to win. You still benefit from the track time and still go and have a bit of fun and still go and drive if you can. And if you bend a track arm, actually it can be quite a quick fix. If it's just the track arm that's bent or broken, 2 bolts and a new track arm, and you can be out in, well, 15, 20 minutes, as we've just seen.
Indeed. I'm interested to see that we saw the BMW M6 GT3, the 107 car of Dan Meyer, get past the Silhouette GTR, or as we know it to be from looking at it, the Z4 of Max Tuban to take the lead. And he's romped away from him now. He's already rapidly approaching the second further down the road, and yet he wasn't able to get past him for the majority of the race. And you just wonder whether, as the fuel's gone down, he's happier with the way that car's handling.
You've just highlighted something that I've been getting wrong the whole race. There is a BMW Z4 in the field, but it's not the one we've been watching.
But it's definitely Z4 shape, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but all those silhouettes are. It's... Gosh, okay, so that the battle that we've got for second in GT3 is not between a BMW Z4 and a BMW M6. It's between a Silhouette GTR, built to GT spec, I suppose, and a BMW M6. And there is a Z4 out in the field, but actually down in 9th position. So, apologies. Sorry, guys. I know you're on the stream. You'll probably know a lot better than me with regards to all the different histories and interests in the field. You might even know who's driving the car, some of the cars. Because, yeah, don't know who's driving the Luke de Kock car.
No, we don't get start drivers, do we, for this, sadly?
Maybe,
and especially if we don't know that there's a second driver, we've got no chance.
Maybe Luke de Kock is actually 2 different people. It's Luke and Kock.
It could be.
Don't know. Yeah. It's not. It's definitely not.
We're looking on screen the fight that we wondered whether it was going to be.
Oh God! Did you see that?
No, I missed that.
So Bentley comes through the left-hander at turn 3 and hooks his wheels over the curb, brings a load of dust onto the track, gets a swapper on. Nissan follows in, picks up the dust on his tyres, gets a swapper on. It was almost what you kind of see in rallying.
Races.
Yeah. You know, ditch hooking and rallying, it helps the car go around the corner, but it also puts dirt on the track for the next car to make them slower on the route, I should say, not the track. That's exactly what happened there. So putting the Nissan off a bit.
Although it seems to have gone the other way, look, is that Bob Herber's Bentley's the one that's under the pressure from Growls.
Now, yeah.
So it didn't work out. The Wacky Races stunt didn't work for him there. Got to continue to try and fend that one off. Now that, of course, is changed. That's for, would you believe, 4th and 5th in the GT class now. Bearing in mind, they were 2nd and 3rd, hoping to be 1st and 2nd with the additional time penalty that the BMW 193 of Bart Aronson would serve. Although, interestingly, Bart is still ahead of them, so that didn't necessarily play out that way at all. But we've still got just under 13 minutes left to go, so could still be some fight in this from them.
How cool is that car? Roger Gravels bringing it down the last couple of corners and onto the straight. Just love the look of it. Bob Herber catching the Silhouette and the Lotus a bit quicker than he thought he was going to there. And the 2 big rumbly front engines blasting their way past the slower cars.
Yeah, you feel those go past the commentary box, don't you? You don't just hear them, you feel them.
Now, Bob is not very happy with the brakes on that car. Did you notice that just coming into turn 2, there he goes, runs deep. He was tapping the brake going into the corner, so his brakes are long. There's no doubt about that, because you don't do that on a straight. He's now flashing his lights, presumably at somebody ahead of him to tell him to get out of the way. And there is a little Silhouette plodding along, but the Nissan, look, tap, 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 tap. Unless there's an electrical problem with the brake lights, which is the only other way. But again, he runs deep into the corner. Nissan is going to get a better line, but doesn't quite get alongside. But Bob Herber is nursing an issue with that Bentley, and it's to do with the brakes or his confidence in the brakes, for sure.
No, I'd agree with that. You know, has he got a disco mode on his brake lights? I'm not convinced, but he's trying everything to put off growls. But no, I'd agree with your assessment of that, is that he's not happy with the handling. Once he's exited the corner, he's able to get the noise pedal back down again and everything seems to work okay, but it's as he's going into these corners that he is really struggling. At times it looks like a dog trying to change direction on a kitchen floor.
Very good. Okay through sash curve, because you can actually run that. It's quite a weird apex to the sash curve. You apex very, very late because of the banking around there. But as you say, it's not just braking. He's missing apexes all over the place here. And you know, we commentate of these drivers as though they are faultless and never make any errors, but you know, it's very hard to drive a racing car inch perfect every single lap of every single corner of every single lap, and you know, these gentlemen drivers are here for the fun and therefore make more errors perhaps than a professional, and Bob at the moment is struggling. He'd be the first to admit, especially from the Spa 12 hours, that he's not necessarily of the pace of some of the others. In fact, his teammate at the 12 hours ending up doing the majority of the driving because it's just the two of them, and Bob was the slower of the two. But crucially, pace doesn't matter in a race. Track position matters in terms of points, and therefore at the moment, in that little fight, Herbert is able to keep ahead of Gravels in the Nissan behind. But you would hope that the brakes on the Bentley keep alive.
I'm looking at some of the sort of subplots going on, and we know that 511 car, the Norma of Maurer and Hauser, since the pit stop, that's sort of gone dropping backwards. Still suspect there's a slight issue with that car after the smoke we saw as it went down towards the hairpin and then dropped backwards. That's now down to 4th overall on the road, as we know, because not only did 613, the other Norma of Hayen and Gepps, get past, but Mayer and Tubben in the 2 GT cars managed to get through as well. But the important thing, you're talking about lots of podiums. I think what we'll find is that there will be a GT class and there's then a prototype class, which of course includes the CN and the P1. So whilst the Norma is the only P1 car there, you need to keep an eye on 2 cars back. Luc de Kock in the Norma 270 FC, the 621 car, is running in 6th position and is lapping 7 seconds quicker than the Norma of the 511 Norma of Maurer and Hauser. So it's going to be closing in. Now, is it too far back? Maybe, because it's 6 3/4 of a second behind Bart Aronson in the 193 BMW M6. And I think we're then talking about another 20 seconds down the road until we get to the Norma. So it probably is going to do okay to hold on to 2nd in the prototype fight.
Ligier versus Honda, which was our little battle a couple of laps ago. Here is the Ligier, 366. Still behind the Honda, isn't he? 339 being the Honda. And actually dropped time to it. So TCR still leads GT4 effectively in that little scrap, although not officially a GT4 car. And Bentley versus Nissan, still advantage Bentley, still Bob Herbert being extremely kind to the apexes around this circuit. Still, I think, slightly struggling with the brakes and probably front-end turning as well. Hot day here at Hockenheim. Temperature's really, really good. Hankook tyres perhaps not coping as well as you might have thought for this time of the year, because you wouldn't expect the temperature, track temperature and air temperature to be anywhere near what it actually is.
Now, interestingly, watch out for that Ligier, though, because that car, and that the Honda Civic TCR of Verhulst number 339 that's leading the SSP2, did a 1:57.9. That was a very slow lap for him last time, and it was a personal best from the Ligier. Dennis de Boer has decided to push the thrust button, and it's suddenly dropped into the 1:53s, and it's now only 2.5 seconds behind that Honda Civic TCR. The gap had actually gone up to 7 seconds between the two. It's now down to just over 2, so this could get interesting again in a minute.
Potential problem on circuit for 461, which is one of our Silhouette cars, actually comes into pit lane. So
Vroom,
that's
isn't it?
the Vroom one, yeah. What's happened there, I wonder? comes into the pits, and it was a bit slow, and somebody else kicking up some gravel on the entrance to the arena.
Right, coming into this arena area is the fight that we were talking about a moment ago, actually. The TCR, the Honda TCR leading SSP2 of Tony Verhulst. I don't think he's lost as much this time, because he's suddenly seen the Ligier shape car in his mirror get a little bit bigger, and I think he's found enough speed, because what are we down to? 6 minutes left to go. I think he's going to try and make sure he can do enough. But look, coming across the start-finish straight now is that the 366 Ligier just incredibly close with one of the Normas behind.
As our Peugeot Cup car with a bit of rear-end damage, being very kind and getting out of the way of one of the silhouettes that come through, but gets in the way of the Nissan GTR car. He's going to have to be very forceful here to get down the inside of one. There's a bit of a gap now between Bentley and Nissan, thanks to this traffic and thanks to that little bit of damage on the Peugeot Cup car. One make series for Peugeots in France, so last couple of years. And they eventually developed into the 308, I think, which became the Cup championship for Peugeot after the RCZ. And those cars developed into TCR cars, amazingly. Even though they had a much smaller engine, they were bopped to be able to be competitive. Here we go with this battle that you've been describing in the Supersport 2 division. Honda TCR versus Ligier, and now absolutely locked together.
You could see it coming, couldn't you, before the end of the race?
Only 4 minutes and 50 seconds remaining of this race, but only a car's length between the two of them. One of those categories with more than 5 cars, so a nice little battle to be had. And of course, they've also got other Supersport categories around them. The leading in Supersport 1 division is the 201 machine of Fabo Racing, which is the Hyundai i30, which will look great in the 24H series grid. Beautiful livery on that machine. A modern day TCR car, whereas this Honda Civic is definitely a couple of generations behind. They've got the BMW breathing down their neck of Bart Aronson, who is sitting third in GT3, but really should have been our winning or leading GT3. Got scuppered by the pit stops and the safety car procedure. Dives down the inside. What's he going to do with the Lotus? He has to back out of diving down the inside of the Lotus for this time. Goes through, but side by side now for SSP2. The Ligier with more momentum, going around the outside of turn 1, on the brakes into turn 2, Exige ahead of them. Oh, and there's a Norma that turns up on the inside of them too. They're still side by side, and somehow the Honda hangs on for the moment, but he's going to have to be very, very careful on the throttle. Now coming out of turn 3 and into the Parabolica, the long, long left-hander. It's just a straight, really, for these guys. It's flat out. The Honda seems to have a little bit of legs over the Ligier out of the corner, but surely the Ligier is going to be stronger on the brakes. Very, very close into the hairpin. And again, no change of position. But it's inevitable, surely.
Yeah, and he's just run wide on the exit of the hairpin there, but somehow, how did he manage to keep that one there? I thought it had lost all its momentum and that Ligier was going to dive up the inside, but it just wasn't possible. Tucks himself back, line astern, got a good exit. It was a very tight line from the Honda TCR there. They're taking completely different lines from each other through here, whether they want to or not. And there goes the Ligier looking up the inside, a sneaky snifter, but it's now a right hand and he's going to have the outside line. Still, this fight continues.
Unbelievable stuff. As you say, you drive these two cars so differently. The front wheel drive does tend to understeer when you get back on the throttle at the end of the corner. That's where you want the momentum. That's where you get the momentum from a rear wheel drive machine such as the Ligier. It does look very nice, that car, I have to say. It looks a bit classic in its styling, but it does look like a very, very nice machine. Ferrari 550 Maranello. And actually, the leader of SSP comes into the pits, that Hyundai I was talking about, in pit lane. And here's the replay that you said, 4 wheels off, classic touring car front wheel drive situation there. You get happy on the throttle and the car just understeers. But this is now going to become the battle for the lead in SSP generally. I don't know if that means anything, whether you get a special gong for that, but TCR Hyundai into pits and out of the race, bonnet up there, so this becomes our de facto SSP battle ahead of any SSP1 because they're in the pits. So the SSP2s end up being leaders in SSP with 2 Radical cars ahead of them, and then the GTs, LMPs and CNs. 1 minute and 20 seconds remain of the race. And is that a legit change of position? That is the BMW 149. So it's Keith. Okay, so this is our legit Z4 battling with the last of our GT3 M6s. So Henk Kopman and Kees Weissman for 9th and 10th position locked together. Oh, there was a shot of the Ligier there, but didn't seem to be any Honda. Where's that? Where's the? Where did the Honda go? Maybe it was just out of shot, but we may have seen a change. Here we go. Honda once again understeering off the circuit. Ligier down the inside. And is that then position finally sorted? No, Honda still with momentum around the outside. Still waiting for them to get back to us in the stadium section. And yes, Honda is still in the lead. But again, runs wide. They come across the start line side by side. Honda and Ligier. Ligier has the inside line this time and surely will get this done. No way he could turn in. Oh, that's so kind of you. That's so kind of you. De Boer and Denis with Tony Verhoost in the Ligier. Should have slammed the door there. Had the inside line, was alongside him, but the Honda seemed to have a little bit of extra grunt. Checker flag is being waved, though, for the winner. Verheyen and Geps in the CN Norma M20 FC takes the victory. And that is a good, strong victory as well, because they are well ahead of their nearest rival in the CN category, Luc de Kock. A long, long way down in 5th position overall. They are even well ahead of the chasing BMW M6. Here comes Dan Meyer. Plenty of attention on him throughout the race and lots of entertainment thanks to his battle with Max Tuben in the Silhouette behind. Dan Meyer 2nd, Silhouette 3rd for Max Tuben. And then we wait a little bit longer for Bart Aronson, who has actually done a great job in his 2nd stint to close down the gap. They must have been well over a minute. I think it was a minute and 20 between the two of them. Aronson and Luc de Kock come across the line together, 52 seconds back off the winner, and that is a really good 2nd stint from those two. Damage done by the safety car for them. And then we wait for the LMP3 machine. Gary Hauser, big, strong stint in the first part of the race, but all of his hard work undone by the safety car. And Mauer then brings the car over the line in the best, or the only, I should say, of the LMP3 cars, ahead of that great battle that we were enjoying between Bentley and Nissan. Throughout the whole race, Bob Herber kept Robert Gravels behind him in the 2nd half of it. And the rest of our classes come through. Honda ahead of Ligier as they come across the line, but quite a margin actually. So I think there might have been one last try from the Ligier that didn't work, and somehow the SSP2 victor is the 339, which was the Honda Civic Type R of Tony Verhoost. Great job from Tony throughout the whole of that race to keep the Ligier behind him. Huge pressure, probably lots of fun as well, no doubt. But it is a victory for CN Racing and a victory for Verheyen Motorsport by T2 Racing. Ian Geps and Brent Verheulen. And they beat the Boda Racing M6 GT3 car by 36.2 seconds. Tubin just 1.2 back in the end in that battle between those two. Third place in GT3, Bart Aronson in Koppmann BMW M6, and he was only just ahead at the end of Luc de Kock in the second of the CNs. Sixth position for the only LMP3 vehicle from Racing Experience, and then Bob Herber and the Bentley Boda Racing in seventh, just ahead, 1.4 seconds ahead of Race Arts Nissan GTR from Roger Gravels. Down in ninth position, that battle that we saw at the end, the two Koppmann Racing Run GT3 cars, Hein Koppmann ahead of Kees Weissman. And then in 11th position, the best of the Radicals, Melvin Van Dam beating Robin Greenhall in the battle of Best Radical. Best SSP car, the Tony Verhoost Honda Civic Type R, 13th, just ahead of Swift Racing's Ligier Peter Dens, finishing that car. 15th spot for third in SSP2. Mike Brosselin, and then Remco de Brois 16th, just a 10th back. Last of the SSP2 vehicles, Frank Burson. And then best of our sport division, Bernard Blank and Lars Blank. And in fact, just behind them, the Faber Racing Dennis Borst TCR car is classified in 20th position. Baz Koyton Racing in the 490, second in the sport category. And then Hoystrand and de Jong, third in that category, with the rest of our Silhouette Racing vehicles rounding out the top 25. And then those cars that retired, unfortunately, we did lose a couple of the Zilleret racing machines in the pits or out on track. We also lost Eddie Van Dam in his Radical, causing one of our safety car periods. We lost before the start the 1-2-1 machine, which was the Radical RXC. That didn't start, and neither did the third CN car, which was Sam de Jong, who parked himself up on the inside of turn one before race went green. You can join us for race 2 of the Supercar Challenge powered by Hankook on Sunday local time. Midday race start will be live just beforehand, Central Eastern European time at 11:50. I hope you join us then. And if you want more racing from Hockenheim, we're about to get the 12 hours of Hockenheim underway in just a few moments' time. Here are the highlights, though, from Supercar Challenge Race 1.